We're just gonna let it happen. Um, Stop eating the computer. Setting up. The one thing I don't love about this is that sometimes Zoom will still say setting up, and then
Mhm.
okay, we're live. Perfect.
Oh, perfect.
All right, Victoria, I am so excited to have you today to talk about, as you put it, something that a lot of us feel like is voodoo. I will say I've read so many different books on this and still feel I read the books, I'm like, that makes so much sense.
Mhm.
And then I go to put it in practice and I'm like, no, this is actually voodoo. So I'm so excited to have you here today to talk about SEO and how to make Google see you as an expert. But before we dive in, go ahead and tell everyone a little bit about yourself and who you serve and how you serve them.
Oh, oh my goodness, Amanda, thank you so much for having me. And I love that one of the cats has decided to join us today. Lots of, lots of fun. And you're just rolling with it, like tail in your face and all.
That's
But
her
my
favorite
name,
thing.
yeah. My name is Victoria Rayburn, and I am an SEO strategist and coach dedicated to helping small businesses appear at the top of Google search results so they can consistently generate leads and experience sustainable growth. So, honestly, I am really just freaking passionate about SEO because I've experienced the power of this marketing tactic firsthand. So, back when I was a wedding photographer, which is before I was an SEO full time, every year, 40% of my clients found me through Google, meaning SEO is responsible for like nearly half of my income. Like that's a huge percentage, when you break it down. And I mean, I know you encourage like your students to break down their different revenue streams
Yep.
and how people are finding you. Yes. So like that's a huge chunk. But because of SEO during my 8 years as a wedding photographer, I never struggled to secure bookings. And there were a lot of instances where I even had to turn clients away, like even during COVID, which was, if you worked in the event industry during that time, like it was a wild time. But please know, I don't share this to brag. I share this because I really want your students to understand the power of SEO. So you see, in 2015, like I was the content and SEO director at a marketing agency. And while working for the agency, I started a photography business like just as a side hustle, like so many of us do as creatives. We decide we're gonna do something fun on the side, make a little extra money, be creative. But because I was so used to optimizing websites for our clients, I optimized my photography business's website without thinking about it. I just did it because that's just what I did and I didn't give it a second thought. And honestly, before I knew it, I had more business than I could handle. So I couldn't maintain having two full-time jobs. So at the beginning of 2018, I left the agency to pursue wedding photography full time. And over the course of 6 years full time, like I had the privilege of photographing like more than 100 weddings for just the most amazing couples. And I never had a year where I struggled to meet my booking goals. And I really didn't think anything of this until the questions started coming in. I realized like, this just wasn't the case for many, if not most photographers, creatives, small business owners. And after talking with a lot of other entrepreneurs I respected, including photographers who were way more talented behind the camera than I was, just for the record, it became really obvious to me that they were missing out on revenue just because their websites didn't rank well on Google. Like these small businesses weren't struggling because they were offering a poor product or bad service or because they weren't serving their customers well. Their ideal customers, like, they just couldn't find them. So because of this, today I help small businesses appear at the top of Google search results, whether that means teaching them how to handle their own SEO or literally handling their SEO for them so that they can consistently generate leads and experience sustainable growth. So basically, really passionate about and thankful for SEO, and we'll probably talk your ear off about it today because I've experienced the power firsthand, and I really believe that all hardworking small business owners deserve to experience the consistent, sustainable business growth that SEO can provide.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about why exactly SEO helps with sustainable growth
Mhm.
because I think that that really gets to the core of
Yeah.
why SEO is so important, why it matters, especially for solo
Mhm.
business owners. How does it help with sustainable growth?
Yeah.
What about it
Mhm.
makes it so sustainable?
Absolutely. This is like this, like you like asked me to get on my soapbox. So, like I'm really pumped about this.
Amazing. Perfect. Let's hear it.
But really, the fact of the matter is, when people know that they need a product or service, they're not scrolling through TikTok. They're not scrolling through Instagram hoping the right ad hits them at the right time. Like they go to Google or they go to another search engine. And just kind of as a quick side note, like I know I'm going to say Google a lot today and it's 2025, ChatGPT, other AI search platforms, this has definitely like changed the search engine game. However, Google still sets the gold standard for search algorithms. Like so much of ChatGPT, like it's based off of Google's algorithm. So chances are, if you rank well on Google, you're also going to rank well on ChatGPT. So more or less, like just follow Google's rules, and you're setting yourself up for success everywhere. But really, like the fact of the
Can I
matter is,
ask,
mhm.
sorry, can I
No, you're
ask,
fine.
so what we're going to talk about today, does this also include, I mean, YouTube and Google are kind of essentially the same, but YouTube, TikTok, like when you're trying to show up
Mhm.
even on social media platforms, are these practices that you should be putting in place?
Really, what we're going to talk about today is appearing on search engines specifically.
Okay.
And I know it's like, oh, yeah, I mean, YouTube, yeah, you're right. Because like YouTube and Google, it's like, yep, they're kind of one of the same. So could you use some of these tips on YouTube? Absolutely, absolutely.
Mhm.
But yes, like discussing all the things at once, I think so much I want to talk about today might be a little bit overwhelming for everybody.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. So we're really focusing on websites, just for clarity's sake today.
Yes, like getting your
Perfect.
website to rank like on Google, ChatGPT, other search engines, other AI platforms. Or people were just, does that make sense? Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. No, no, no. 100%.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that everyone watching also
Yes.
is on the same page as you and I are.
Yes. No. Perfect. But yeah, like if your website doesn't rank well on Google, you know, the fact of the matter is you're missing out on business. And not because you aren't great at what you do, not because you don't serve your customers well, but just because your ideal customers can't find you where they're looking for your products or services. So this like number, it seems wildly high, but 97% of people use Google when they're in need of a product or service, if they're looking for something in particular. So as a result, if you can get your website and business to rank among the top Google search results, you can get your information in front of prospects who are actively searching for and likely ready to purchase exactly what you have to offer. So basically, you know, when your website ranks well on Google, you don't have to spend so much of your time going after new leads. Instead, many of your strongest leads are going to start coming to you through Google because they know they already need what you offer.
Yeah. Well, and there's also the aspect of it's a free marketing tool,
Yes.
essentially. You're not having to pay for ads. You
Hmm.
can, but you're not having to pay for ads to be
Yes.
seen. It's way less time consuming, which I'm sure we can get into at some point
Hmm.
today, but it's not like every single Monday I have to spend an hour on ads management,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
Not even to talk about, which you were asking earlier about, like, how do I put out so much content? Not even talk about how much time I
Hmm.
spend on my marketing each month and my husband spends helping with my marketing each month.
Hmm.
And admittedly, I put out a lot of content, but even if you're not putting out as much content or
Hmm.
even half as much as what I'm putting out, marketing still takes time.
Yes.
And I feel like SEO is so important
Hmm.
because it helps that sustainability with your time, with your money,
Hmm.
and you're able to get in front of more people that way in less time and with less money.
Yes. And I would argue too, you know, it's like if you, I mean, like Amanda, like in your case, like yes, you do produce so much content, but like any small business that is producing content and not optimizing it for search engines is doing themselves a huge disservice because you are drastically limited as to where that information is going to show up and who you can reach. I mean, let's say like just hypothetically, you put a blog post out there, you don't optimize it for search engines. Great. The only people who are going to know about it is if they click on it because you share it on social media or because you share it with your email list. Like you were therefore limited, like just to your current audience, more or less, and the handful of people that, you know, the algorithms on social media decide they're going to share your post with outside of your followers.
100%. And that's such a key thing that I teach inside of my course,
Hmm.
Content Batching Bootcamp, is that your marketing should work for you longer than you spend working on it. So if you
Yes.
spend 2 hours producing
Hmm.
a podcast episode, you need to be getting way more than 2 hours worth of time in front of somebody's eyes. And if you're
Hmm.
just putting it out, you're spending 5 minutes putting it out on social media and a couple people click over. And then you're spending time writing an email and a
Hmm.
couple people click over. It's not working for you
Yes.
the way it should be if you're not
Hmm.
doing the things that you're going to teach us today.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, I could not agree more.
Okay, so let's kind of do a brief overview of what exactly search engine optimization is and
Hmm.
what Google is looking for from us when we're thinking about
Absolutely.
SEO.
Yeah. So SEO is simply the process of optimizing your website and your content to rank well on search engines. And I honestly encourage people to think about SEO in two different tasks. So first of all, there is like the initial optimization of your website, making sure it's built with keywords in mind, making sure it follows all of Google's best practices. And then the second step is showing Google that you are an expert. And you do that by focusing on your EEAT. So a lot of people really just assume that, SEO, it's just about keywords. It's just about crossing techie things off checklists or about doing some kind of like Google voodoo that allows you to rank well. And to be fair, like at one point it kind of very much was, back in like the 2000s where you would just keyword stuff and yeah, you put your text in white on a white background and made it hidden and yes, you won. But if you want your website like to rank well, your website and your content to rank well on Google today, you have to really remember and understand that Google and other search engines, they exist to provide their users with information they need. And any good search engine is going to strive to provide its users with the most helpful and credible search results that it can. So if you want your website and content to rank well in search results, you have to prove to Google that you're a credible source and you're an expert at what you do. So in other words, you need to prioritize and improve what Google calls your EEAT. So EEAT stands for experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. Now, I know that's like kind of a lot of words, but the important thing really to remember here is that your website and content, they need to show Google that you're an expert who can help search engine users solve their problem. So as a small business, as a creator, as a course creator, as a creative, you like improving your EEAT. I always get tripped over. Like there used to just be one E, it used to just be EAT, which was really nice, but now I have to like really think about it. But EEAT, it has two benefits. So first of all, honestly, it's going to help prospects see you as an expert they can trust. So when you're producing helpful, credible content, this is only going to make your ideal clients more likely to buy from you. And then secondly, from an SEO perspective, Google and other search engines, algorithms, they prioritize website and content with high EAT. So as a result, like you want to focus on and improve your credibility so you can improve your search engine rankings and get your website in front of prospects who are actively searching for products, services, and content like yours. So essentially EEAT really is the key to improving your SEO. And in my opinion, SEO, it should be one of your top marketing priorities because it can help you, like we talked about, reach that consistent, sustainable business growth. And just to give you a few more numbers, like we talked about, 97% of people use Google when they're in need of a local product or service. 90% of consumers who search for local businesses or specific products or services, they make purchases within a week. And SEO drives actually more than 1,000% more traffic than organic social media. So if you want, stop chasing business and let your strongest leads come to you through Google or other search engines, you need to prioritize your EEAT. And there are, today I would love to talk about 11 practical and relatively simple ways that you can do that.
Okay, yeah, let's dive in. What's the first of the 11 ways?
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So I feel like I've already said this, a dozen times. I'm just going to keep saying it because it's so important. But, Google strives to provide its users with the most helpful, accurate, and credible search results that it can. So one of the most effective things that you can do to improve your EAT is to create content that helps Google achieve its goal. So in other words, like you need to publish credible content that serves your audience well on Google and showcases your expertise. Now, just for clarification, like when I say content, I mean blog posts, videos, podcast episodes, infographics, and in this instance, like any other medium that can live or like be embedded on your website specifically and allows you to share a message and engage with your audience. So for a lot of creatives, blogging, it tends to be the easiest option, but it's still highly effective form of content. So that's what I typically recommend. Like if you are ready to start a YouTube channel and like do all like the cool things that Amanda does, put it on YouTube Live and turn it into a podcast and put a coinciding blog post, like please, please, yes, like great. But if all you can do right now is blog, that's okay. Still highly, highly effective from an SEO standpoint. And then when it comes though to what to like blog about or create content about from an SEO perspective, I highly recommend creating 3 types of blog posts. So first, you can write educational blog posts. These kinds of posts that teach your audience about a topic or how to do something and allow you to position yourself as a knowledgeable source. So for example, Let's say that you are, and I know like there are a lot of course creators, but on your audience and everybody is in like very like different portions of the industry. But let's say like you are a wedding planner with courses and you were educating other wedding planners. It's like you could write blog posts about how to create the perfect wedding day timeline or how to like onboard your clients. I mean, like the options are they're absolutely limitless. But like you just can write anything that is going to help your ideal client feel more informed about in this situation, like how they're serving their clients, especially in relation to your service. And then another type of content you can create to improve your EAT is simply blogging your work. Now, this is going to look very different from small business to small business, but essentially, like you can use your blog to showcase your products or services. So, back when I was a wedding photographer, I used to blog all of my weddings, all of my shoots. But if you're like a virtual assistant, for example, like you might blog client success stories or case studies. If you're a course creator, same thing, client success stories, case studies. How did your course change their business? What data can you provide to support that? It really just depends on what makes the most sense for your business. But blogging your work is a really great way to show Google that you're an expert in your field, which is only going to improve your EEAT. And by blogging your work, you can show Google that you know what you're doing and that you are actively taking clients or students or customers. And then last but not least, and I know that this is like, we're talking to a lot of course creators, but there are some of you who are like our course creators, but also have a local business. So if you have a local business, meaning you have a service area or a brick and mortar location, creating niche location specific content is also a really great way to improve your EAT. So if you aren't sure what I mean, like just bear with me for just a second, but you see like outside of trying to find products or services like yours in your area, your ideal clients are likely Googling other questions related to or like adjacent, loosely related to your products, your services, and your location. So if you create blog posts that answer your potential clients' questions, your ideal clients will likely find your content when they Google their questions, which will then encourage them to check out the rest of your site. And your website as a whole is going to rank better because your location specific content will help Google further associate you with the area you're targeting and see you're an expert in your area. So, like, just as a for instance, like, let's say you're a wedding photographer in Indianapolis. You might like write blog posts like best places to take engagement photos in Indianapolis, rooftop wedding venues in downtown Indianapolis, best wedding planners in Indianapolis, where to take wedding photos in Indianapolis. And again, this kind of content, it's both going to help you serve potential clients well, and then help Google see that you're a local expert at whatever it is you do. I promise like the next, 10 ways are going to be a lot shorter than that, but like it's just so important to remember like Google exists to share content. So the most effective thing that you can do is to create content that Google can share.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to, so we've got educational, we've
Mhm,
got blogging about what you're working on. So client success
mhm,
stories, things like that, student success stories. The location-based one, is there a need to focus on that, or is there something similar we could do if
mhm.
we're not location-based?
If you're not location based, no. Um, Honestly, if that's the case, I would very much, just double down on those educational blog posts simply
Perfect.
because location for you doesn't necessarily
Hmm.
matter. You have the privilege or sometimes the hard parts of serving the masses.
Yeah,
Comes with pros and cons.
absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
yes, I would only focus on that local aspect if you are a local business or if
Mhm.
you have an area you would like to target.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you mentioned, blogging's easiest, and that's always what I
Mhm,
recommend clients and students starting with as well, is starting with the blog. It's the easiest way
mhm,
to get content out there. Um, and it really is, if you're creating a podcast or if you're doing YouTube, but you don't have the time to also create a blog post to go along with them, it's not really worth your time because
mhm,
you're not going to be able to build a following that's gonna come back to your website. They're just
mhm,
gonna hang out on your podcast or YouTube, and that's not the end of the world, but it's also
mhm.
not gonna make you money as easily. So,
Yes.
my question to you is, so for example, with Apple Podcasts specifically,
Mhm,
with that app, if you don't put out a new episode every 2 weeks, anyone who is subscribed to your podcast gets removed. That like the automatic
Mhm.
downloads stop. Is there a recommendation for how often you should be putting out a new blog post on your website in order to fulfill this EEAT that Google's looking for?
Oh, that's such a good question. So honestly, so much of SEO is doing more than your competitors are doing. And don't get me wrong, I am all about community over competition, but you need to look to see who your SEO competitors are, who is ranking for things that you want to rank well for. You need to look to see how often they are blogging, how often they are releasing content, and then you essentially want to do more. So if your biggest SEO competitor is only putting out one blog post a month, great. You're going to put out two. Like that should be your goal. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And how do you find out who your competitors are and what they're
Yeah.
trying to rank for?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can honestly, and I can, so this can be a big conversation, but I do have a
Mhm.
keyword guide if anybody does care to check that out. But you can find it at
Yeah.
victoriarayburn.com/keywords. And this guide really walks you through how to choose the most strategic keywords for your business. But after you know what keywords you want to target, honestly, just pop them in Google and see who pops up, who is already ranking at the top of search results, because well, you're honestly like your SEO competitors and your business competitors are actually two very different things. There is a good chance that,
Ooh.
as course creators, um, you might think like, oh, like I know like so and so, I've met her at different conferences and we like have similar target audiences, like we have similar courses, we're doing the same thing, but maybe that course creator is not prioritizing SEO. And so as a result, they're not ranking. So I mean, like, community over competition, tell her that she should also be using SEO. But again, your SEO competitors are specifically who's ranking well on Google, while you're like who you think might be your top competitors. They're just not necessarily your SEO competitors.
Okay, that's fascinating. I wouldn't have thought about it that way. And we will definitely link to that guide in the description
Oh,
and show
thank you.
notes, so that everyone can check it out. I'm gonna go check it out as soon as we're done. Actually, because this is something that I am actively working on improving is my SEO. So I'm excited to check that
Oh my
out.
goodness.
But yeah.
Well, you just published a book, so that makes me a little nervous. I'm like, oh gosh, like an author's going to read this guide.
Oh my gosh. Listen, anyone can publish a book. If I can do it, anyone can do it.
That's true.
No, it's totally true. It's all you need is time. That's all it is. But okay, what is number two? What's the second of the 11 things?
Oh, yes. Okay, so creating great content, super important. But another way to improve your EAT is to use data insight sources. So remember, EEAT stands for experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And when you use data to support your content and you link in your blog posts in this instance to those trusted sources, like that gives Google and your audience more reason to trust your
Mm.
content because it's credible content. You are citing credible content, which only adds to your credibility. So to include data in your content, you can include, industry statistics, survey results, case studies, or even specific examples from your own business. And then to cite credible sources, you can just refer like to academic journals, studies, respected news outlets, or even just content from leading experts in your industry. So chances are it's going to look a little different from industry to industry, just depending on, what resources you have available in your industry. But when you back your content up with data and trustworthy sources, and you link to these resources, you add credibility to your content, which again improves your EEAT. So, just like your high school English teacher taught you, do your research, cite your sources.
Okay, this is fascinating because I think this might be something that is counterintuitive for a lot of
Mhm.
us because we think that in order to be an expert, it needs to come from us. It needs to be this, um, we created this
Mhm.
educational framework, or we came up with this, or we're teaching this. And so I think the idea of going and finding and collecting data, it might be counterintuitive. And I just think this is such a great reminder
Mhm.
that part of being an educator is going and learning things ourselves and
Yes.
then coming back and sharing that information and distilling
Mhm.
it down based on our own frameworks. And so, yeah, I just think this is such a great reminder for all of us here that are
Mhm.
educators because it can sometimes feel like we're supposed to be doing it all on our own, and that's not the
Hmm.
case. Like,
Yes.
we're
Like if you
standing
bring
on the
up
shoulders of
somebody,
giants. Yeah.
yes. Like if you bring up somebody else's research, that means like yours is less credible.
Right. Right.
Yes, but that's not the case. I mean, you think about like I'm probably one of the few of the people who are still watching Grey's Anatomy. Like, let's be honest. Like, I just need to know how it ends at this point. But it's like you get like little insights into what like life as a doctor looks like. And it's like anytime they're going to do a new revolutionary surgery or they don't know how to solve a problem, it's like, what do? They look at articles, they read other people's research, and then they put a twist on it, they put a spin on it. But they don't just like cut somebody open and hope for the best.
That's such a funny example. I know my sister still watches Grey's Anatomy. Um, I never got into it, despite the fact that we live in Seattle or right outside of Seattle. But
That's probably like
um,
reason enough not to then. Like it probably just makes it way worse. Like, it's gotten bad, but we've made it this far.
yeah, you know that you got to keep going. I can't do like I don't like medical things, so
Fair
I
enough.
can't watch it because of that. But my sister loves it.
Oh, she and I
Um,
will have to bond over that because we're
yeah,
probably the
yeah.
only two people left watching.
Man, Shonda Rhimes creates some magic though, so
Yes, she does.
it just sucks you in. Um, okay, so citing data and export
Mhm.
experts and also linking to those things in particular.
Yes.
What else? What else can we do to make sure that we're showcasing that we're an expert?
Absolutely. So, yeah, in addition to like citing other experts, another great way to improve your EAT is to collaborate with experts within your industry. And so there are a lot of ways you can do this, but a really, really simple way is to ask an expert in your field to serve as a guest blogger and publish their content to your website. So, for example, like let's say you're a web designer. You could reach out to your favorite copywriters, brand photographers, SEOs, to contribute an educational or how-to blog post to your website. And by featuring guest posts from a respected colleague, like you're not only adding valuable content, but also showing Google and your audience that you're connected with other authorities in your field. So this adds credibility to your website, gives your favorite colleagues backlinks, which we'll discuss more shortly. And most importantly, it serves your audience well. And yeah, and like it's super simple for you to do. Somebody else is going to develop the content and you're just going to put it on your website.
Mm. And when we're asking collaborators to do a
Mhm.
guest post, what guidance do you have for the types? I'm not sure how to ask this in the clearest way, but the types of content that they're putting up. So let's say, for example, you're a web designer and you're going to a copywriter. What kind of
Mhm.
content would you ask them to post about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think so much of it really depends on what your own business goals are, who your ideal clients are. But in this instance, again, we stick with the web designer and talking to a copywriter. Maybe, your copywriter writes a blog post about like the 8 things that you have to have on your website in order to convert
Mm,
visitors into customers. And so that gives the copywriter the chance to say like, hey, we really have to have CTA buttons, or like, hey, at the top of every page, you need to make sure you have this. Or, maybe that web designer also talks to a brand photographer and the brand photographer puts together a blog post really backing up like, hey, if your website has brand photos, like custom brand photos, it's going to be more likely to convert. Here's data to support this, that kind of thing.
mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're finding that overlap in the Venn diagram
Mhm.
basically between your two businesses, right?
Exactly, exactly. Because
Mm,
it should support your business goals and it should be mutually beneficial. Like it's going to take this person time, but it's going on your website, so it needs to make sense on your website. And
yeah.
yes, like I think that's a great way to put it. Like there's got to be some overlap between your business and theirs in this content that's being created.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes complete sense. And then um, when it comes to having people do guest posts, is there too many backlinks? Is too many? How do you decide? And does it matter for SEO, I guess
Mhm.
specifically, as far as, linking to different offers that they may have, etc., things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's not necessarily a like, okay, like you can include this many links in a blog post or this many links in a paragraph. You just really want to make sure you're prioritizing user experience. So as
Mm,
you're going through, it's like if every other word is linked, like as, an internet user, that would be really bothersome to you. Like, nope, that doesn't make any sense. Or if the
mm,
content sounds super spammy because they're trying to fit a bunch of their offers in there, nope, that's not going to work. Like as a person you feel like it's spammy. Google is smart enough to know that it's spammy. So honestly, like just read through and make sure you don't have any red flags. And I feel like everybody listening, like if you, especially if you are a course creator, y'all spend a lot of time on the internet. You know what good blog posts look like. You know what bad blog posts look like. So just go with your gut.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. And then number four.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about some stuff that you can add to your about page because honestly, I think this is just a page on your website from an SEO perspective that is often underutilized. So, to improve your EAT, you do want to make sure that you include your credentials and your qualifications on your about page. So, like just to give a couple examples, like you might highlight your background by including your education, certifications, licenses, and any relevant training that you might have. You might make mention of how many like years you've been in business. You can also display like noteworthy clients or projects. You can include bios for you and your team if you have one that highlight your expertise and your experience. And then you might also consider adding testimonials to this page. So you can link to press features or any awards you've received. And then if you've published work on other sites, like link to that. So, if you've guest posted somewhere else, or like if you're a wedding photographer and your work has been published somewhere, like make sure you're linking to those things. And, if you've been featured in the media or in a publication somehow, consider linking to those features. So basically, like you want to use your about page to highlight your qualifications. Now, this is kind of side note, but y'all, while you definitely want to include this information on your about page, it's important to remember that your about page shouldn't be about you. It should be about how you can help your ideal client solve their problem. So statistically speaking, like your about page, it's going to be one of the most visited pages on your website. And honestly, I think this is even more true for course creators, just because people want to know, like, who am I hanging out with, like online from my courses? They want to know all there is to know about you. But your prospects, if they're not going to want to work with you, if this page is like full of narcissistic weirdness, um, but like with every piece of your marketing, your ideal client, it should be the hero of the story. But anyway, I know we have a lot to talk about, so that won't go like off on an about page tangent. But on your about page, you do want to make sure that you are showing that you are a credible source. And honestly, your about page is just the most natural place on your website to do that.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to showcasing things like where you've been featured and things like that,
Mhm.
how do you feel about media pages? Do you think that should just be your about page or having two different ones? Like, I don't
Mhm.
know. Maybe it's
Yeah.
neither here nor there. I'm just curious.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do think that like as an educator myself, like as a podcast host myself, like I really appreciate when somebody has their own media kit, their own different media page, just because I feel like those things they have two very different uses.
Yeah.
Like the media kit media page is very much like, oh, like we're gonna collaborate, we're gonna partner together, like, and I need to have all of this stuff like really instantaneously available to me.
Mhm.
Your about page, however, that is where like your customers, where your clients are going to be hanging out for the most part. So in my mind, I guess they serve two different purposes, but do I think there's a lot of content overlap between the two of them? Yes. But like as a for instance, your media kit, you might give your brand colors. So like people have the exact hex codes. Your clients, they
Mhm.
don't even know that. Like they don't care.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. I was just curious.
Yes.
Okay,
Uh,
number five. Is that
okay.
what we're on?
So
Yes,
yes, we're
five.
we're trucking right along. So something else you can really add to any page of your site to improve your EAT is client testimonials. So this helps both Google and your website visitors see that you serve your customers well and are great at what you do. So testimonials, they act as a social proof, which reinforces trustworthiness and authoritativeness in Google's eyes and your prospects' eyes. Now, chances are like you can easily and naturally add testimonials to your homepage, your about page, and then a product or service pages. And then to give these testimonials even more credibility, I do recommend if you can, like including the client's name. And then like if you are a B2B company, meaning you're working with other businesses, if you can list their business name and link to that business, awesome. Like that's a nice little backlink to them, but it also shows like, hey, like I work with businesses like this. And
Mhm.
then if you can include a photo of the individual who left the testimonial, that only adds to that credibility because it shows like, hey, this is a real person and they really said nice things about me.
Yeah. So adding a backlink to their website, let's say on a sales page, that you don't think that detracts from what you're selling, or do you think it's worth it for the SEO at least that having that backlink on that page to
Mhm.
someone else's website, like it overrides the potential distraction?
Yes. So I do think it overrides the potential distraction. One thing I would
Mm-hmm.
encourage you to do is to like make that link open in a new tab so they don't
Yeah.
lose where they are on your website. But I do, and I mean, for me, SEO is the priority. Like
Right.
if your ideal client is, like super distracted, like I don't know, maybe you offer courses for like, I don't know, those struggling with ADHD. Like in that case, maybe don't do it. Like you have to know your ideal client.
Yeah, yeah. And then, okay, another question that I think of automatically when it comes to testimonials and client success stories is website design. How
Mhm.
can we, because I know a lot of times you'll see testimonials in canvases that just they
Mhm.
slide. Does that affect SEO? Is there a best way? Should they all have their own separate canvas? Like, does it
Mhm.
matter? I'm just curious, like from a design look with
Yeah.
SEO, what's the best way to put them on
Mhm.
a page?
Yeah, absolutely. So much of SEO goes back to user experience. Now, Google doesn't want to rank websites that are super frustrating to use. So there isn't necessarily like, okay, like this is always the best way. It just depends on what your site looks like, how many testimonials you have. And honestly, like the more testimonials you include on a page, kind of the better. I mean, you don't want to overwhelm people, don't get me wrong, but like if your top SEO competitor has 5 reviews, then like, hey, like why don't you put 7 on your
Mhm.
homepage? And that adds just even the teensiest more credibility.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Okay, so number six. What's number six?
Okay, yes. So speaking of testimonials, another great way to, both get testimonials to feature on your site and to improve your EAT is to earn honest, positive online reviews. So reviews provide a further social proof and show Google and other search engines that your business is actively serving customers well, and as a result, reviews better your EEAT. Now, earning Google reviews, Yelp reviews, or reviews like on any other site that is helpful to your ideal client, it's going to improve your EAT. However, I do want to encourage y'all to specifically ask your customers for Google reviews because most people, so 81% of people read Google reviews, and Google reviews are going to most effectively improve your SEO. So Google is, it's a leading search engine, and Google, honestly, like it tends to like its own features. So Google reviews are typically your most strategic bet if you're trying to decide where you want to build online reviews. Now, if you want to generate more reviews, this I don't know if this might go without saying, but you do have to ask for them. So more than 70% of people are going to leave reviews when they're directly asked. However, you're likely going to find that none of your customers are going to take the time to leave you a positive review without being asked directly. So, make asking for reviews a part of your workflows. And if you're short on Google reviews right now, you can, and I argue that you really should like reach out to past customers, past students, and ask them to take a minute to leave you a review. Like this is such an easy way to improve your EEAT. Like if you've served people well, they're going to be so happy to do this for you.
Okay, so is for getting Google reviews, is that something you
Mhm.
have to set up to have the ability to do?
Oh, that's a good question. So, yes, you do need to have a Google business profile. And, 5 years ago, you only wanted to have a Google business profile if you had a local business. That is no longer the case. It's so
Okay.
Google made an algorithm update a few years ago where like address no longer matters. Now, can you be an online business and show up like in the a Google Maps section of a website? Of a search results? No, like that's not going to happen. However, your Google business profile does still matter. And again, Google just likes its own stuff.
Okay.
So therefore, utilizing this is going to be really helpful. And then, if somebody searches for your business specifically, your business Google profile is going to be one of the very first things that populates. It's going to give them snapshots of your business, including your reviews.
Okay, interesting. Because I, yeah, I I've never set any of that up because
Mhm.
I'm not a local business, but this is good to know. This is good to know. Russell, take some notes on things we need to do. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding.
Yes.
Um, okay, so needing to set up the Google business account, you said?
Google Business Profile. Yep.
Profile. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So adding those, and then what else do you have for us? Number seven?
Yes. Okay. So next, make sure that your content is up to date. So, and yep, this is a simple, highly effective way to improve your EAT. But Google is always going to prioritize content that's both accurate and relevant. And as time goes on, information changes. But by keeping your blog posts and content current, you show both Google and your audience that your website is trustworthy and maintained. So, for example, like let's say that you are a travel agent with a Disney niche. Like, I mean, I know Amanda, you're a big Disney fan, but
Mhm.
maybe you have a blog post like breaking down the different Disney resorts that you can stay at. Well, resorts are updated, they're added all the
Mhm.
time. Sometimes they're closed for a season for construction. So but so that your content isn't seen as outdated, it's important to occasionally go in, make updates to ensure that blog post still includes the most accurate and helpful information. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And when you do this, when you make an
Mhm.
update, do you recommend just going into the post you've already written and just making an update,
Mhm.
um, or creating a whole new blog post with more up-to-date information?
I think it really depends on how much work you have to do. So, like, let's say, Disney adds one new resort. Great. Get into the current blog post,
Mhm.
update that one resort. Now, if they're like, nope, we knocked everything down and we built all new stuff, and that's just what Disney decided to do, then I would say create a new blog post. You're going to save yourself a lot of time, but make sure the old blog post link like redirects to your new blog post, or the old one comes down, you use the same link. We just want to make sure that people are not finding outdated content.
Okay, so then, okay, here's getting
Mhm,
really specific here. Let's say you're a Pinterest strategist and you have a
mhm,
blog post that's, the best Pinterest strategies in 2024.
mhm.
If you do a best Pinterest strategies in 2025 post, would you still take down the old one or would you simply add a link that says for updated 2025 strategies, go to this
Mhm.
post? How would you do that?
Yeah, I mean, you can honestly go either way. So
Mhm.
I would kind of like in most situations, the best thing that you could do would be to update the old blog post just with more current information. And chances are, like when you're dealing with tech year to year, not a lot changes. Typically, it will just be a few little updates. And so, therefore, you can get in and just make a couple quick changes, change 2024 to 2025. Uh, so that is your best bet. But that being said, if you're like, oh my goodness, like, well, like, let's like HoneyBook, for instance. HoneyBook has released so many updates within the last year. Like, if you had a 2024 post like now, like, delete it, start over. Like,
Okay, okay. This is good to know. Okay, so keeping them up to date,
mhm.
then what?
Yeah. Okay, and then we've already talked about backlinks a little bit, but let's dive further into that. So, in simple terms, backlinks are just links to your website from other reputable sites. So, just another website somewhere linking to a page on your website. And they are really important with SEO because they signal to Google that your content is valuable and trustworthy. Basically, like, hey, other people are linking to your content, or linking to your site. So, they're kind of vouching for your content. And Google sees links like this as a vote of confidence. And the more quality backlinks you have, the more Google will see your site as an authority. So I know like this can feel really intimidating and overwhelming. So like let's just talk about a few practical ways you can earn backlinks as a small business, with the caveat that like this is going to look very different from industry to industry. So one of the easiest ways you can earn backlinks is to serve as a guest blogger. Like we talked about having other people come on your website and serve as a guest blogger for you. You can also do that for them. And so, reach out to a publication in your industry, colleagues, and offer to write a guest post for their site. Then and then the post you write, make sure you link to your website. So that way your blog does include backlinks. And then as a business owner, you probably like you regularly get those cold emails asking to contribute to your blog. Like, I really hope this goes without saying, but don't send cold emails. Like, you're going to have so much more success offering to write a guest post for people, for businesses and publications like you actually have a relationship with. Like, I just want to make sure we're saving everybody some time and getting the most bang for their buck. But Another strategy to earn backlinks is to collaborate with other colleagues or vendors in your industry. So this is going to look very different from industry to industry again. But like let's go back to the web designer example. Like you could collaborate with your favorite copywriters, photographers, and SEOs by adding one another to like your preferred vendor list. Like maybe you have a preferred vendor list on your site, and then you can also swap testimonials and link to one another's websites. You can swap featured vendors posts where essentially like you highlight a vendor, they highlight you. There are a lot of different ways that you can do this, but when you have like you have a good community to work with, this is just mutually beneficial because it helps both of you rank better. So a lot of things that you can do within your own industry, and of course, this strengthens relationships as well. So that's super helpful. And then another way to get backlinks is to get your work published or like make moves to be featured in news or media outlets that link to your site. If you are looking to get published in more media outlets, like Susie Moore, really great resource for that, talks all about how to get featured in media. And then, while we're on this podcast episode, a really great thing about being a podcast guest is that you can earn a lot of backlinks at once. So, when somebody has a podcast, it's like Amanda, like in your instance, it's like, okay, like you have YouTube. Chances are like you're gonna link to my website from YouTube. You are going to then include show notes on Apple and Spotify and everywhere else you publish this podcast. And then last but not least, like you'll do a blog post, which will also include links to my website. So that's probably like realistically, that's hundreds of backlinks earned really in just like the 1 hour that we are spending together. So that's a super, super strategic way to do that. So again, like how you earn backlinks, it's really going to differ depending on your industry, but hopefully these examples trigger some ideas. And then also, if you produce high quality, useful content, like we talked about, other people naturally want to link to it and cite it in their own content, which is also going to give you backlinks. But yeah, earning backlinks from reputable sources shows Google that your content is trustworthy and boosts your authority in the eyes of search engines. Plus, backlinks that give you opportunities to reach other audiences, which is, a pretty fantastic bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a great growth marketing
Mm-hmm.
strategy. And going back to number three, was it? With collaborating with other experts. Like that's such a natural, how do
Mm-hmm.
I collaborate with other people with
Mm-hmm.
that Venn diagram idea? And doing that can help build those backlinks so easily.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, I know it can feel super, super daunting, but like you're not on your own here. And that is one of the beautiful things of, being a small business owner is the community that you kind of naturally just have. So
Oh,
lots of resources to pull from.
100%. Okay, what's number 10?
Okay. And actually, I'm so sorry, Amanda. We're only on 9, but I
Oh,
promise you
just
guys to
kidding.
be
Sorry,
really short.
9. Sorry. No,
I know,
I'm
I'm like, it's
jumping
a
ahead.
lot of things.
No, no, no. I just can't count. That's all.
No, you're all good. All
Number 9,
good.
number 9.
Yes. So another effective way to improve your EAT is participating in thought leadership. Now, this like, simply means positioning yourself as an expert in your field by regularly sharing your insights, your opinions, and unique perspectives on industry trends and topics. But yeah, when you consistently share valuable knowledge and take a lead on conversations in your industry, both search engines and your audience will begin to see you as an authority. So you can establish yourself as a thought leader through, blog posts like we talked about, by being in podcasts, by speaking at industry events, by being active on social media, like, kind of like the internet is everywhere. Like Google sees what's happening on social media. Google sees if you're mentioned on somebody else's website because you're speaking at an event. So if you
Mhm.
start, publishing opinion pieces or offering actionable advice, like really in whatever online medium or even an in-person medium, you really can establish yourself as a go-to resource. And this is a fantastic way to improve your EAT and build trust with your audience.
Yeah. And this is, I mean, if you're publishing content,
Mhm.
that is establishing your thought leadership,
Oh
correct?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So just want to make sure you know, like so much we're talking about today is like we said, we're talking about websites specifically, but just know like
Mhm.
if you are participating in thought leadership, like on LinkedIn, on Reels, like it still does add to your EAT.
Amazing. Okay, great. Now number 10.
Yes, now number 10. I swear we're nearing the end. But yeah, we've spent a lot of our time today talking about like the kind of content to develop to improve your EAT, but to give you like a quick technical step. So it's really important to invest in an SSL certificate. So an
Mm,
SSL certificate helps secure your website by encrypting the data exchanged between your site and your visitors. So essentially, like when people fill out your content page, like when contact page or provide their email address to get your opt-in, an SSL certificate, make sure nothing funny happens with their information. You want to make sure you have one. So this means that any information you shared, like personal or payment details, especially like if you are a course creator and you are accepting payments on your website, like all of that is kept safe. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, like that's okay. But have you ever gone to a website and like received a message asking if you want to proceed because the website
Hmm.
isn't secure? Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Yep, you know exactly what
And
I'm
I
talking about.
immediately click out.
Yes, exactly. And that's like simply because, that site doesn't have an SSL certificate. So most of your site visitors, they are not going to notice if you have one. Like they're not going to like look, but they definitely notice if you don't have one because they're going to get that weird message. And this is going to most likely result in them leaving your website. So you obviously don't want that. So yeah, having an
Yeah.
SSL certificate is super important because it makes both your prospects and Google more likely to trust you. Now, if you don't have an SSL certificate, you can get one from providers like Namecheap, GoDaddy, or wherever you purchase your domain. And this might sound like techie and hard, but I promise you that it is not. You just need to purchase it and follow the instructions to install the certificate, which you can likely do in like just a few clicks, or ask their bot and the bot will help you and all will be well.
And it's a one-time setup, correct?
Yes, absolutely. I
And
mean, one time, like, and then you get a new website, and then you got to do it again.
yeah, but man, it like not only is it important for this, but it's just good business
Mhm.
practice. Like you don't,
Yes.
uh, if a website, if I get that message that says this
Mhm.
website's not secure, unless I am 100% confident in what I'm looking at, I am going to click
Mhm.
away. And so any cold traffic's going to leave most likely. And so it doesn't make sense not to have one.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And chances are, like, it even comes free with your domain. So, for so many reasons, you need one.
Yeah. Okay. And number 11.
Okay. Yes, last one, I promise, but it is an important one because maintaining consistent branding and messaging is also
Mhm.
crucial for improving your EAT. So, like people find comfort in consistency and familiarity. Google values that same consistency. So when your visual brand and your messaging align across platforms like, your website and your Facebook page, like great, they're consistent, awesome. This helps Google see that you're a professional and you understand who you are and what you do as a business. So this consistency can positively impact your rankings.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so 11 different things. You
Mhm.
broke this down so actionably for us. But when it really comes down to it, for the most part,
Mhm.
it's about putting out that content and doing it strategically, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, it was really just about, and I mean, from industry to industry, things might differ a little bit, but we just want to show Google that you are a
Mhm.
trusted resource. And so some of it is, a lot of it is, I think you're exactly right, that content creation. But then the other parts of it are, it's like, okay, like, well, earning Google reviews, making sure that you're taking steps to show that
Yeah.
you have authority in that way. So yeah, so much of SEO like really does come down to content creation and like just doing the things that Google
Yeah,
asks you to do. It's not voodoo. Google makes it very, very clear. Like these are the things that we want you to do.
right. Okay. And so you
Mhm.
mentioned your keyword guide, which we'll link
Mhm.
to. You also have a guide called The Six Most Effective Ways to Improve Your Small Business's SEO, which we'll also link to.
Oh,
Do
thank
either
you.
of those go through how to discover what you're currently ranking for?
No, but you can absolutely find that information with Google Search Console, and Google Search Console is a free tool. So if I highly recommend anybody who wants to rank well on Google should definitely utilize Google Analytics and Google Search Console. But Google Search Console shows how you're performing on Google, and so it will show you like, hey, these are the pages that are ranking, these are the specific things that people are searching for, and what you are ranking well for.
Okay. Okay, great. So Search Console, are there any other tools that you recommend?
Yes. So honestly, with SEO tools, like it really, because they can get quite expensive. So
Mhm.
as a small business, it really just depends what your goals are. But really, like At the end of the day, my argument is always like Google is a place we're trying to rank well. And so as a result, we want to utilize the data that Google gives us because that's the most credible data. So yes, Google Analytics, Google Search Console are great. There are free tools or tools that have like free versions that can be super helpful. So Uber Suggest is probably my favorite. And I like have the robust version, but like I am an SEO, like I need to have it. So, but it does give you like so many free searches a day if you have the free version. Moz is also another really great resource in that regard. But honestly, for most small businesses, you can get away just using free Google products. That being
Okay.
said, if you are producing like a ton of content, and then like, yes, like depending on what data you need, what information you need, there are other tools. But for most small businesses, just the free Google tools will give you all you need.
Amazing. Okay.
Uh, And then I guess, because I know that's a lot of information. Do you mind if I just like say like
Yeah.
really quickly? Okay. I would love to just like give everybody like two things. Like I hope like that gives everybody peace of mind. So first of all,
Yeah.
you do not have to do everything we talked about today. You don't have to complete all 11 steps. Like if you do, great. Like I will send you a big old virtual hug. But the fact of the matter is like few small businesses are going to prioritize their EEAT. So as a result, like even if you just do a few things, especially if you focus on the content suggestions we talked about, you're likely going to see pretty drastic SEO improvements.
Mm.
Additionally, I also just want to add that EEAT, it's not a fad. This is a fundamental aspect of how Google evaluates content quality. And as long as Google's goal continues to be to provide its users with helpful content, EEAT is only going to become more important. So investing time and or money, like if you decide you want to work with an SEO in these tactics, it's only going to benefit your SEO and make you like and set you up for long-term success. So, think of EEAT as a foundational piece of your SEO and your content marketing strategy. And then also, like just take a deep breath, prioritize a few of the tactics we discussed, and start implementing what you can. Remember, every step you take towards improving your EAT is going to contribute to improving your SEO and reaching that long-term sustainable success that we talked about. So again, I know 11 steps is a lot, but you don't have to do them all, or at least not all today.
But could you do a quick rundown of the 11 again so everyone can just hear them all in a row?
Oh, absolutely. I am going to look at my own notes because I could give you all 11. They will not be in order. So we'll try to keep the order we talked about. But yes, okay. So first, create content that serves your audience well and showcases your expertise. That includes that educational content, blogging your work, and then location specific content if you are a local business. Two was use data and cite your sources. Three, collaborate with experts. Four, add credentials to your about page and website. Five, feature testimonials and customer success stories on your website. Six, earn honest, positive online reviews, specifically Google reviews if you can help it. Seven, make sure your content is up to date. Eight, build a strong backlink profile. And then nine, engage in thought leadership. 10, invest in an SSL certificate. And then 11, maintain consistent branding and messaging.
Amazing. And if you were to give everyone just one small action step that they could
Mhm.
take this week to improve their SEO, what would it be?
Yes, if it's really like really just that small, like something you want to get done this week, add making Google reviews part of your workflow. Chances are this is something that can easily be put into a template. And if you are already operating from a CRM, if you are already have email automations in place, whether this gets added to an existing email or you create a new email, but this is something that is not going to take you very long to do, assuming your Google business profile is already set up, and even then it won't take you long to do. But that is something that you can easily do this week, and something that so many small businesses just neglect to take care of. Like it's not a coincidence when you start like doing comparisons of what small businesses are ranking well, like most of them have more Google reviews than the other people on that page if they're at the top of the page. So it's an easy way to make a big difference.
Okay, let me ask you this. When you're getting Google reviews, should should you be trying to focus on key phrases or
That's a good question. And honestly, like I
does it matter?
would it be nice? Sure, but we want to create as little friction for our clients
Hmm.
as
Hmm.
possible. And so if we tell them like, hey, I want you to like leave me a Google review and these are the three terms that I want you to incorporate, say, that just
Hmm.
becomes way harder for them. It's simple, but like leaving a review, it already takes time. And I mean, I like try really, really hard to leave small businesses that I love Google reviews. And I try to like spend a little bit of time doing it like every week. And I would say I probably leave more Google reviews than most people, but like there are definitely times like, oh my gosh, like I go to this coffee shop like once a week and I haven't left them a Google review, but we just forget. And the more friction you
Yeah.
add, just the less likely they are to do it. So I would recommend not.
Okay. Okay. And then I don't let anyone get away without giving a book recommendation. So it doesn't have to be a business book, it can be. But what
Mhm.
is one book that you would recommend that everyone checks out?
Oh my gosh. Okay, this is yes, such a good question. Okay. So if I can I give two, if that's okay?
Yeah,
Sorry. I'm like, I'm just too much of a
absolutely.
reader to okay, what? But except we have to do a business book. I did finally read Profit First. This is my first year of doing Profit First. Amanda, I know you're a big fan. So this is my first year doing that. And y'all like what a difference it makes. So I like bought this book 2 years ago and it sat on my shelf forever and I finally did it. So yes, I can't recommend that enough. And then a book that I've read this last year that I just think everybody should read, The Women by Kristen Hanna. Like I will just think about it
Yeah.
the rest of my days for the rest of my days. And it's been really cool too to have like my grandparents like served in Vietnam. So it's been like really interesting to have conversations with them about that. But okay, I will not like go through my whole reading list with you. But yes,
I
those
mean,
two.
we could. I'd be down for it. Oh man, The Women is so good. It's just like, yeah,
Yeah, like
without
what a
doing any
piece of art.
spoilers, but it was just like, when is it gonna get happy? When is it gonna get happy? But it like it's so
Yeah.
poignant and like, anyways, she actually, Kristen Hanna lives like the next town over from me, which is so cool. Not that I know what she looks like, but I'm always like, when we're there, I'm like, she lives here. I love her books.
It's like Amanda just admitted on YouTube that she stalks Kristen Hanna. So
Yeah, no, I don't know what she looks like, but every time we're in that town, I'm like, this is, and it's funny because it's a really small town. I'm like, man, I love this author, and she lives here, and it's, I don't know,
Mhm.
it's fun.
Yeah, so not a Grey's Anatomy fan, but Kristen Hanna. Like,
I know, I
that's
know.
okay.
I don't, if it wasn't for the medical stuff, I
Yeah,
could
no,
read
you
it.
have
If
great
they
taste.
wrote, I mean, I guess there is like the actual like Grey's Anatomy book, but if
Yeah.
Shonda Rhimes wrote a book series, I would be all over it. I would be like, yes, please. Give me 20 volumes. I'm here for it.
Oh, maybe in her next business venture. I'm like, I don't think that woman sleeps a lot. I don't know if she has how much time she has to write books.
There's no way. I don't know how she
Mhm.
does what she does. And
Yes. Yeah.
she's amazing. Just
Mhm.
yeah. Okay. Victoria, thank you so much. We're gonna link to both of your freebies and your guides, and your website and everything. But if there was one place that you would recommend everyone go to connect specifically, where would it be?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am definitely most active on Instagram. Like you can find me on all social media, but Instagram just tends to be my happy place. And you can find me at Victoria L. Rayburn.
Perfect. All right, and we will link to that as well. Thank you for being here today. I feel like I have more questions now than when we started, but in the best possible way because I feel like these are actually steps that I'm like, oh, I can take these steps. And so now I need to, okay, dive into them and answer these questions for myself. So thank you so much for being here and just giving us a different way to think about our content and how we can use it in the best possible way for nurturing our people, but also for that growth marketing aspect as well.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And Amanda, thank you so much for all you do for the community. I mean, the fact that you're able to truly make marketing simple is just wild to me. Like, I love listening to your podcast. I love diving
Gosh.
in. Reading your book is still, it's on my list. It's on my list. It's gonna happen this year. Yeah, yes, it's like the TBR list it is long, but yours is definitely at the top of
I
the
know.
business portion of it. You just do such an incredible job of making marketing more approachable, but then also helping everyone get the most out of their marketing efforts. Like I love how you put it earlier, like it should do more for you than like the amount of time that you put in.